there's something when we first met, there's something that stood out. And I was like, I like this guy. It took a bit of courage for me to meet you there, stand at the airport terminal, watching the bags go around, was walking out, and I was like, you know what? Wonder if this guy would let me share his taxi. Not because I'm being cheap, probably partly being cheap, interchanging, but also because I want to keep hanging out and chatting with you. And all the way back then, there's some things that continue to stand out to be true. And it's like that relentless drive, the relentless pursuit of doing the hard shit, getting the excellence, to have it all in all areas of life. And as I continue to connect with this, I continue seeing it even more so within yourself. I'm like, dude, this lights a fire. When I asked you to jump on this call, I was like, I want to hang out, have the conversation. But also, I know that you'd light that fire within me, so we can go and put together.
Oh, dude, yeah. Look, everything in life happens for a reason. And when we met at the airport, dude, I'm so glad you had the courage to go, hey, you're a fellow Kiwi too. I was like, yeah, what's going on? And the synergies, man, we were at on that journey, and I was just like, oh wow, like both doing ecom, both escaping the virus and doing all this shit, and just wanted more out of life. And then dude, I mean, like, yeah, I really appreciate our friendship. Every time we catch up, it's just nothing but knowledge bombs, and I love how deep and raw and honest we get with one another and where we're at in our journey, and really appreciate the friendship, man. It's like, even when you came to Melbourne that time, you're like, hey man, like, where are you at now? What are you doing? And just having these check-ins along our journey for the last couple of years now has been very inspiring. But it's just awesome to have a relationship like this, like with you. And it's very valuable to have friendships like this in your life. One thing, I'm going through a phase now where I'm really focusing. So the circle is shrinking, and I'm setting a lot of boundaries with people in general, and the vision, where I'm heading, what I'm doing. And I feel like there's a time like a time constraint on this, purely related to the space that I'm in, but also like just the free flow of ideas, and then the time to action them and all that, the rest of it is getting shorter and shorter, I feel. And I think sometimes I take life too seriously, but at the same time, it's kind of good, because I'm like, I came to Bali, what was it, from April to July, and was like, I sort of automated everything in your life. I mean, you're well aware of this: washing, Gojek, getting all your food delivered, just so you could just go to the gym, ice bath, saunas, and then just work and grind, and then that's all you need to do. And dude, I fast forwarded the shit out of that, which was really cool and really rewarding. Went back to Melbourne for a bit, just to check up on Gigi and help her with a few things. Then back here for another 2 months, just to lock in before heading back there to close off the apartment, and then back into the nomad life.
Yeah, man, it's so good. Louise and I were sharing that, like, after we left Bali, and then been traveling around Europe, having to take care of our own cleaning, our own cooking, our own laundry. It took us a few months to realize that these things, they're important. We need to take care of them. Man, they take up a lot of time. And that time was directly just pulling the time away from what we had for each other. And I started to appreciate and understand why relationships with ourselves and with others aren't as good as what they could be when we live these busy lives, taking care of the mundane stuff. I know, like, maybe you resonate this with this come to New Zealand, Australia. Like, there wouldn't be a chance in my life back then that would have said, you know what, I think I need to have a cleaner and someone to clean my bathroom and make my bed and do my cooking and do all this stuff. It would have been like, what, you're too good to do this stuff yourself? That would have been my mindset. Now I'm like, man, I need to get to a point in my life where that can be taken care of for me, no matter where it is around. And it's just affordable, and it's just, that's the benchmark for me. So then I can spend time doing what's important. Like, Because we're building the business, creating value, having the time and the space with the people that I love, and really building those relationships. So I love having Louisa on board with that, because it's like, this is about us. And even if, we create all that time, when I've done this, created all that time, I hit this big pothole going, fuck, I don't know what what's valuable to me. And then having someone else to reflect back what's valuable together and going on that journey together. It's just such an amazing thing to be able to create, replicate that, and systemize it in a way that we like.
Oh, dude, no, I totally agree. I went back to Melbourne, and it was a bit of adjusting, because I'm like, now we have to order groceries, and I was trying to systemize that as best I could. I've really fallen in love with systems and processes, and love fine-tuning areas of my life to automate, a lot of it, especially, with the introduction of AI, with our business, we introduced a lot of that. But just more so, look, we have a Woolworths across the road, where I live in Melbourne. And then, I would go there, every second day just to get groceries. And then you got to cook, and then you got to clean, and sound entitled as shit. But I think when you're on a mission like that, and you understand, time's the most precious resource that we have, and you're like, okay, cool. If I walk across to the supermarket, it's 20 minutes, and then, well, it's 20 minutes to go shopping, and then, probably 5 minute walk there, 5 minutes, so half an hour, times 4 days a week, there's 2 hours. You can do a lot in 2 hours, if you're in a deep focus mode. But then you go, okay, cool. Now let's times that by 4, and then, okay, well, there's 8 hours. So, there's a full day, and you go, okay, cool. And then, obviously times that by 52, and you're like, shit, that's a lot of days that you're losing to doing monotonous tasks that are just really tedious. And okay, like, yeah, they serve a purpose, but how could you allocate that time and resource to another aspect in your life that would pay a different ROI? I mean, you still got to eat, and like, essentially, but reducing that. And that's, I think, what I love about, Bali is just, you can automate the shit out of that. And you can really just like lock into a lot of deep work. And I think that's the really attractive thing of, where I'm currently at.
Can I challenge a little bit of that piece?
Yeah, please. Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive deep. I love the challenge.
This is something I've been connecting with over the last, I don't know, not that long, like last 4 to 6 months. And I just love looking at controversial or like opposing perspectives on the norm. It's like, what say comedians do. They find something that's like the mundane accepted thing, point to it, point out how ridiculous it is, and then laugh and make a joke. And I was like, I kind of started taking this approach within my coaching and the way that I was perceiving life, because all of life is just a perception anyway, like nothing's real, right? It's all 100%. And I was like, well, what if I just change my perspective on it? Change the rules on the way that it is that I'm perceiving life, shake it up a bit and see what happens. And time was one of those things that I started diving into it. Like, people say, oh, time is an illusion. What if time was an illusion? It's just our perspective of time that's an illusion. Change our perspective on it. How does the illusion shift? And then I started looking around. Like, one thing that you mentioned there is it's such a common belief. I think everyone just accepts that time is a resource. And we can't get back the time that we use and spending it. And it's like this tradable commodity. And I was like, well, if we dig into that belief, then it's always like time's always running out. It's scarce. I'm like, I don't want time scarcity in my life. How can I look at this differently? And I was like, what if time just equaled experience? And time, like, it's not a commodity, it's an experiment. So all the time, no matter what time, because like no one's got a shortage of time in their life. All we need is more life and more time. I started like loving anyone that doesn't have enough time. They just need more life in their time, and then be taken care of. We don't manage time. We manage our decisions, and it becomes like a perpetual cycle. If we don't have enough time, we're just not managing our decisions that are going to best align to how it is that we shape our lives. So I'm like, if time is an experience, how do I want to experience life? And this is going to be my challenge for you. It sounds like you're automating heaps in your life, but how do you automate an experience? What
Yeah.
do you do with
So,
that?
well, I think it's if you automate the tasks that you don't want to do, that gives you more time to experience the things you
Yeah,
want to do. And I think that's probably the best thing is like, cool. One of my goals was this year was to, own 100% of my time. And, I quit my previous company that I was at, and now I'm back working for myself full time, which is awesome. And then it's like, okay, cool. What are you doing within that time? Gym, meditation, sauna, ice baths, obviously always investing in yourself is really important. And then working on the vision, I call it is important, but it's just all these small things. And I think with the introduction of this amazing technology we've got access to now, automating a lot of these tasks that you just simply don't want to do or need to do, you could argue that point, allows your output to grow exponentially. And essentially then you then like own your time, right? And I think, Naval Ravikant talks about this, owning 100% of your time. And I think he says something along the lines of, if you still have to work on your business for someone else, you don't own any of your time. You're still owned by someone else, right? But I think, I think that's a great point. Where I'm currently at in my life is, okay, there's a Bitcoin halving coming up, and these happen once every 4 years, if we're talking in the cycles. So for me, it's creating as much cash flow as possible for that event, because these are, once every 4 year cycle. So you want to capitalize on that opportunity best you can. So for me, I'm like, okay, cool. That window is closing every single day. Bitcoin halving is happening around April, May next year, depending on the transactions. So for me, I'm like, cool, accumulate cash flow, invest whatever I can into that, live below my means. And then I'm thinking like, okay, if I sprint really hard for 2 years, then I've essentially got the next probably most valuable resource, which is money. And money is obviously a very important tool in the life that we live. So if I then own, a large resource of money, that unlocks time travel, right? Because if you have 8-9 figures, you can then go and purchase really, private jets, or essentially private jets or not, you can essentially be anywhere, whenever, on your time, experiencing whatever you want out of life. So I think that's what I'm sort of sprinting towards in my life and my journey is like, cool, opportunity. And along that path, there are multiple opportunities that, go in different directions, which then create more opportunities. It's a flow-on effect, but essentially creating as much cash flow as I can to lead up to that event with the knowledge that I've learned in the past 5 years in blockchain. I want to then put those skills to work as best I can, and really make the most of that opportunity to then unlock that rest of that abundant life, to then really completely own time. What does that look like? I don't know what that destination is going to look like.
That's what I'm really passionate about, because what you're saying is totally inspirational, I think, in whichever way. So you're doing this through NFTs and blockchain and crypto space. Some people do it through any form of entrepreneurship or wealth creation, and going and like running hard, bringing this relentless pursuit of excellence to build that, to own time, to own the money. all of that is experience. Once you get there, it's almost like treating it like a finish line. They cross the finish line, great of a ride. Well, what's the experience? And this is the idea that I'm toying with, is what if we take that experience from the future and bring it to now and start living it now? It gets really uncomfortable to realize, well, fuck, I actually could live it now, but I don't know the answer to that right now. And it takes the level of facing the reality of going, well, I'm running towards something that I don't actually know what it is. If I did know what it is, like maybe I could just start bringing more of it into my life right now and then realize it's not a finish line. It starts here and now where I am. How can I own that? And that's the part that's been really exciting me and having these conversations, because I realize that we're not alone, but the discomfort that creates when you start diving into it.
Yeah, that's such a valid point. And I think, when I do my meditations, and try to align with that vibrational frequency to really attract, okay, cool. What's the life I'm living now? Cool. I'm living in a beautiful country and back in Bali, and I'm surrounded by like-minded individuals doing cool things. And, okay, this is great. This is the experience. But I think you bring up a really good point. It's like, okay, cool. I've got an idea in my head, I guess some sort of picture of what that life looks like. But yeah, you're totally right. What is it that we're running for? But I think the other thing for me is I think probably for us is the journey is the goal, right? That is the goal. You go along this journey and okay, yes, you go and accumulate these resources like money and experiences and all these other things. And essentially that is the goal. And I think great thing about meditating is you try and stay as present as you can along that journey, and to really appreciate those experiences. I always get lost in the source, right? So one thing my partner's really good at is really grounding me, because I'm like, yo, let's go. Everything's, fuck, time's running out. What more can we do? And when I was in Melbourne, she's like, hey, I just want you to switch off, no screens, and just have dinner with me and let's just talk. And I was like, shit. Yeah, I'm spending a lot of time, I'm spending a lot of time just go. But then it's like, okay, cool. But the whole point of meditation is to be present, right? And then when I stopped and reflected, and I was like, okay, cool. It's really those small things that matters, the interactions with loved ones, with friends, the people that you meet along the journey, interactions like this, that really mean a lot. And that's what life's about, right? These experiences, these interactions, and they're just so special. And it's kind of like that for me, it's kind of like you come up for air and you breathe, when you stop and go, oh, cool, we'll catch up. But when she's like, oh, just stop. And I was like, fuck, I'm really grateful for her and a loving, amazing relationship. But then it just goes to show, what are you doing? What, okay, you've got that vision. But the thing is, that vision in our head never really plays out, because it's always completely different when we get to that destination, if we get to that destination too. So yeah, I think you bring up a really good, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but I think you bring up a really good, valid point. What am I, running towards?
Yeah.
And bringing those experiences to the future. Maybe it's something I need to do more of, for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, you're not alone with it. And I've discovered this through going on this journey myself and then helping others to go on this journey and connecting with more and more. And the more I help others through our coaching do it, the more it paints a picture in my mind to go, fuck, I've been avoiding this for a while. I love what you mentioned with, coming up for air. Man, it's, at the end of the day, we're all living the same human experience. We just want love, connection, to know that we belong and that we've got significance that we matter and we're contributing. Really, that's what it's about. And what I discovered is that I was building my entrepreneurial empire, and it was so easy hiding from the truth because I was inspired. I was creating something that was meaningful, purposeful, and I was like, this is awesome. And I was hiding behind all these great excuses. And then I'll come up for, I'll be doing hustling away, and then I come up here, like you put it, and realize, shit, I've got really no close friends. Don't have really any. I was going on plenty of Tinder dates, and that kind of thing, but like don't have a really close, intimate relationship, and I'm just fucking lonely. And so then I moved to Bali, and I created all this time. I realized that, well, now that I've got all the time to do what it is that I want, what do I really want? So I'll stay straight back into the grind. I'll just hustle some, make some money, create some more time. Every time I came up here, I realized I'm not even living with it. And it was so uncomfortable. It was really, really hard. So yeah, bringing those moments. There's something else you kind of mentioned, but yeah, everything that you shared, it's just I resonate with the experience because I've been down this path. And the questions that I ask myself, I love challenging others, especially others like ourselves. The relentless drive for something more, because there's so much passion, there's so much fueling it, that it's easy to hide behind that and not face the piece that's over there that's really important, the experience of life, to connect with the people that are important to us, that really lights us up and fuel us on a more meaningful way than just creating more wealth all the time.
Yeah, I look, absolutely. And I think the other thing there is, like, we need to challenge each other, right? And challenge each other in all relationships, because that is the point of the relationship. If you're in a relationship or surrounded by people who just keep agreeing with you, like, you could argue you're in the right circle, or you could argue that these people aren't challenging you and you're going to keep going down the same path, and try, and probably expecting different results, which could result in insanity. But I think one thing that I'm pretty self-aware of with my friends is I say to them, look, I'm the sort of friend who will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want. And I will, challenge them, or, I'm pretty blunt and upfront about it. And I'm just like, hey, like, pull your head out of your ass type thing. And I guess as I'm getting a bit older, I'm a bit more hard on my friends. And I think it's, the way I look at it is it's my way of loving them, because I want more out of life, and I know that they do too, and I know that they can achieve it. So for me, pushing them in that direction and going, hey, quit fucking around. Is this what you're doing? These actions, are they relating to your goal, or where you want to be, and all the rest of it? And I guess some of them appreciate it. Some are like, yeah, you're a bit hard, and I'm like, yeah, well, toughen up. Life is hard. So I mean, these days we sugarcoat everything. But no, I love to be challenged, and I think it's really important. I think most people, should do it more often. These days we live in a world where it's so easy to believe everything we see online. I've got some friends that send me stuff on social media, and they're like, "Do you see this?" And I'm like, "Dude, don't believe everything you see on social media." You know what I mean? Like, you should be challenging everything that you see on social media, or everything you see in general, within reason. But yeah, I think it's really important to challenge each other, and it's good because, like you said, life's all about perspectives, and everyone's got a perspective, and everyone's perspectives are different. And you see people, I mean, like, I'm guilty for this as well. You get to a point and you're like, oh man, this isn't going right. Everything is in shambles, this and that, or you're not getting the results that you want. You're doing all this effort, and you're like, I should have got X now, but I'm getting Y. Why is that? And then if you zoom out or change perspectives, you could be like, hey, I'm actually doing really good. I didn't get X, but I got Y, and that's something. So I think that's really important too, right? And I had a conversation with a friend recently he's in a bit of a tough place, and he was like, oh man, I'm pretty down now. You know, Instagram keeps banning my profile and all the rest of it. And I was like, okay, cool. But, you know, why not crush it on LinkedIn? Why not crush it on TikTok? Why not crush it on Snapchat? Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I was like, there's, you know, new apps coming out now, like Lemonade and all these other crazy ones. So like, why don't you go capitalize on them? Threads. And then he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and your clientele that you want, you know, you want these C-level, you know, sort of men, predominantly. He's a PT. So why wouldn't you go and target those people on LinkedIn, those business guys who are probably overweight with a lot of bad habits, that have a lot more money and, you know, fit your clientele. So maybe that is the push you need to jump on LinkedIn and start capitalizing on that, right? But yeah, like you said, it's all about perspectives for sure.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying, just going back to what you're saying about really pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries of each other. And some people appreciate it and some people don't respond that well to it. But working in this space that we're in, like people like ourselves, now, you know, I know that I can challenge you. You're getting warm in there.
Yeah, it's about seat up.
Yeah, challenging each other's like ourselves. That like I know that you're not going to settle for mediocrity. You're not going to settle. Yeah, like you're the kind of person that's in the pursuit to have it all. And I think that the really great way to challenge others like ourselves is to point out where it is that we're sitting. Even though I'll stand behind saying I'm out to have it all, fuck mediocrity. I'm not going to settle. I'm going to keep going. I still know there's a part of me in my mind, in my life, and some part that I'm settling because I'm not even aware of it. I'm looking over here and I'm settling here, and this is the important part. And these are the conversations that we can be having with each other and going, you know, well, you're on this relentless pursuit of where you're heading, where you sit, and you know, settling in the life experience, settling within the relationship, settling within a level of connection with yourself, settling within emotions. You know, mindset's, of course, mindset's important. I'd say, what's your emotional level like? You know, in terms of, and emotions dictate so much of what we do, right? In terms of our life experience. And like, you know, emotions around, I also loved what you're sharing in terms of the meditation. And it's like, in this moment of meditation, you can be present. But it's like, to be present, you got to go and do the thing to get the presence. What about presence in just all the time? Like, we'll forget about presence now until I go and do the thing to get me presence. But it's just the doing thing. It's like, how can I have a life experience of presence now in this whatever it is?
Isn't it funny? You know, while you say that, I think about the memories that you and I have made together. And I've got some really random ones, like just us going out for dinner, like the taco place. That was a fond memory.
That's one of my favorites, by the way. I love that one.
Yeah, that's a great one. The other one where we were at this little place, and you had those weird looking shoes with that wrapped around your feet. They're like a sock, but they're wrapped around your toes. And I was like, what the fuck are those, bro? Man, these are great. And I'm like, what the fuck are you wearing? Like just things like that, right? And then you think back and you go, well, maybe I was really present in that moment for it to be a fond memory now. Or like, what is it from that I was present? And then you probably reflect on other things and you go, okay, maybe I felt like I was present in these memories at the time, but then maybe you don't remember them. And so then you question, were you present? And I think that's really challenging too, you know, because you're like, it's important to be present, but then, but does being present mean that you're present in that moment and you remember that moment for the rest of your life? Or what does that mean? You know, what's that measurable? So I really find that quite interesting.
I love that conversation. I think one of the well, the science shows one of the key determining factors that shape our memory is our emotional attachment to that memory. So the emotion, I don't really like to use good, bad emotions. All emotions are healthy, especially when they're functional. We need them all. They've all got a purpose within ourselves. There's a lot of emotions that are suppressed and denied through society. For guys and environment that we grew up in, sadness is not allowed. It's too vulnerable. And then that denies us grief. And then when we can't experience grief, we're carrying around with this baggage from the past. And it makes life really challenging. And it will shape our future based on experiences that are held within us that haven't been let go of yet. And so memories can be shaped around those traumatic events. And trauma, there's so much work and wisdom around trauma, but trauma can be just not actually the thing that created the trauma, the response to the so there's a whole conversation around that. But then we also have memories around the really positive moments and the really amazing moments, and whether it's the excitement, the inspiration, the love, the joy, and we remember those. But notice how you don't really remember anything that didn't have some kind of emotional attachment. It didn't really matter. And the point that you just made that I find really interesting is if we're not present to that emotional experience, the attachment on some level, we're really not going to experience it. It's just going to be a pretty bland, beige moment in time. All being to beers at the pub or whatever, and it's just like whatever, you never remember. But then we go and eat a taco at a random taco spot for next to nothing, and we connected, we shared ideas and everything, and I can't remember what it is that we spoke about, but it's a memorable moment because I think we're present to the experience that we create.
They stopped fucking serving those the ice cream taco sandwiches there. I went there.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, where are they? And they go, oh, we don't do them anymore. And I was like, man, I'm leaving. You just ruined all my memories. But you know what? This brings up a good point, because I saw a piece of content the other day, and this guy, he goes up to he's in New Zealand actually. He goes up to this big Māori fella and he goes, dude, I love your energy. You're so happy and positive. And he goes, what's your secret to life? And he goes, oh, no one's really asked me that. And he sat and he thought about it for a bit, and he came back with this, and he said, the secret to life is tragedy. He goes, my wife died recently, and it was horrible. I had to go through that. But he goes, it made me appreciate what I had and how important life is. And, I was sad for a moment, but I got over it. And then now every day I look forward to, just living and meeting people and being happy. And that really resonated with me. And I think, quite powerful for all humans to hear this is that, okay, cool. All the good things in life are determined by all the bad things in life, right? So how you judge those experiences. I mean, for me, I've had adversity. You've had adversity, and everyone's had different types and forms of adversity. But I always reflect back on, all the shit things, and I'm like super grateful for them. And it sounds really fucked up. And people are like, oh, why, that's horrible. But I'm like, yeah, but I look back now if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. What the fuck was that? Let's get the shit out of me. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, going back to that. So, all these bad things, if they didn't happen at the time, it feels like shit, but I wouldn't be where I am today and on the journey that I am. So all these events shape that journey and shape that path. One thing that I was reflecting on recently was like, man, I look back at, all these ex-girlfriends that I had, and I was like, I remember at the time, it sucks, breakups suck. And, men and women process them really differently. I think men hold on to them a lot longer. Women will have like a week or two, maybe a month, just trauma, and then they'll like get over it really quick. With guys like, yeah, we're cool. But meanwhile, deep down we're breaking like shit, and it takes quite a long time for us to get over it. We tend to hold on to things. I guess everyone's different, but I think more so for me, that's what I do. And then I was like looking back at all these past, exes, and then I've met my partner now, Gigi, who's like, soulmate, love my life, and everything's just amazing. We're very in line with everything. And I was just like, fuck, I'm grateful for all those ex-girlfriends. I'm so glad, they didn't work out, because I would never have met Gigi, and we would have been, doing life together and just in a very healthy relationship. And then I thought, okay, cool. Family, we can't choose them, unfortunately. We're dealt with the hand we got, and everyone's got family issues. So dealing through like family trauma and stuff like this, and then those experiences, and I'm like, all this adversity, and like, fuck, I'm actually really grateful for that as well. And then I think you look back and you go, hey, I'm actually really great for all these shit things that happened to me. And I think that's the purpose of life. It is tragedy. I kind of agree with the big Kiwi fella, because I'm like, that has real depth, because to experience insane highs and make the most of all these happy and positive moments, you've got to experience these insane lows, and vice versa. And I think it's really important, with whatever adversity or trauma or tragedy that you face, is you really sit with that emotion. Like you said it perfectly, all emotions are good. The bad ones are good because they make the good ones good, and the bad ones good as well. So it's just like to be a human and experience these different range of emotions, these different types, these feelings. That's the best thing about being a human, is like, cool, you got to do this, and different settings, different environments with different people sharing these different experiences. And I think that's really important. So, well, what's the point of life? Is it experiences, or is it tragedy that enhances these experiences to make them all worthwhile? I'd love to hear your perspective on this, but I thought I'd share that with you. It's kind of like on that topic, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of a conversation that came on a podcast that you shared. I think you shared it with me back when I was in Melbourne last. I can't remember the podcast. Can't remember who it was with. It was something about happiness. And so flying back from Melbourne to Europe. And it reminds me of a statistic that he shared. Or it was a research study that he shared on there, how I'm going to quote this really badly, but
the podcast, just quickly, the podcast is Mo Goddard, with Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. Yeah.
Yeah. So the part that stood out to me, and I reference it badly often, but how there's actually two parts to it. The first part being that when they surveyed people that they got them to connect in with the worst things that happen in their lives, and asked them some questions around that, and they said, would you change it? You can go back and change it. Most people were like, yeah, I didn't want it to happen. It's really bad. And they said, okay, but you got to also give up all the things that happened as a result of that bad thing happen. Would you then give it up? 97, 98%, nearly 100% of the people said, no, I'd have to relive it. I'd have to relive it because of all the things that I'd have to do as a result of that. And now, like any time that I'm in the most challenging, shittiest, suckiest position, my thoughts now are going, well, one day I'm going to look back on this and wouldn't change it. I'm going to look back on this moment and be grateful this happened because of what's going to happen as a result of it. Whether it's true or whether it's not, the science shows that it's true. I'm probably going to be one of the 98% of the people that wouldn't wish it to be different. But in the future, then it makes that moment all that much bearable, just to realize, oh, well, I just got to enjoy and appreciate this shitty, sucky challenge that this is right now, to then appreciate everything that will come out of it. That was a game change shift for me with everything that it is that you just shared. Another really interesting statistic or a study that they showed is people that won lottery. Like everyone's got the science shows everyone's got a kind of a reference point of where their happiness is. And so we're all going along, whatever our reference point is. You could argue some people are just naturally happier than others. Some people are just naturally a little bit, but we're all kind of somewhere on the spectrum. we got this reference point. People that win lotto, their happiness and their satisfaction spikes. And then not that long later, it drops and it settles just below where it was that they were before they won lotto. That's what the science shows. They also did a study that people with their happiness became paraplegics, and their life and happiness, satisfaction in life spiked dramatically low, as you'd expect. Shit, now I can't move my limbs, my arms, and legs. My life's going to be totally different. They followed up with those people, and their life and happiness and satisfaction settled just below just above where it was previously.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's such an incredible. I don't know what to make that mean, but it just came up for me in this conversation where it's like, it's the challenges, it's the adversity, it's the hard shit that we have to go through, and these experiences that we'd never wish for, that really gives our lives meaning and purpose and satisfaction. Because, like what you mentioned, well, it's not the goal. Sure, we can go for the goal, we can go for the outcome, but that's not what's important. It's the pursuit of hitting that outcome. That's who we become along the way. That's really important. Because we can hit the goal, we can cross the finish line and go, okay, sure, we've arrived, but that moment's gone. Who we became along the way, we take with us forever. And so it's all those moments. And so all these parts that keep coming together, and it's like, oh man, I don't know what the meaning of life is, but these must be some pieces.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, let's dive a bit deeper. And I think this is a question that's brought up with, you bring up a good point there, and it goes, I guess everyone's got, like you said perfectly, everyone's got a different perspective of what happiness is, and everyone's happiness index is completely different. So for you, where are you on your happiness scale? So a couple of questions here. One, what is happiness in your eyes? And two, and where are you on that happiness scale?
I don't know. Happiness. What would I even define happiness? Happiness, joy, contentment, and all of these things. Where am I on that scale? It's always a work in progress. Like, if I'm totally open and totally honest, it's probably not where I want it to be most of the time. And the reason why I would say that is because, referencing back to my own journey where it is if I connect in with going, how happy am I right now? It's probably not where I want it to be, and that's uncomfortable. So I'd rather go back to the distraction, what I'm passionate about, what I'm working on, where it is that I'm trying to go, where it is that I imagine my life to be different in the future. It's everything else apart from facing the reality that I'm like, oh, I'm not that happy right now. But that's only moments. Like, there's a lot of moments in life which is fucking awesome. It's skipping, and it's rainbows, it's lollipops, it's sangrias and mimosas on the beach, and connection with loved ones, and all of these things where I've got gratitude and like intentional gratitude and appreciation for the moment. And I'm like, wow, how good is that? It's amazing. But what I notice in those moments is that for me to have those happiness moments, I had to be intentional with connecting. And so I suppose, to give the short answer, or to wrap that up, happiness is all over the place. It's like what you shared before. Before doing personal development, before discovering how I can be intentional in my life, before I knew about intentionality, it was just me drifting to life. It would be the external things, it would be the people, the experiences out there, the jobs, the money. I was just a leaf blower. I was just like, life was happening all around me, but I had no control over it. Then I got discovered, development, became intentional, and I could start shaping. And so when my life is all over the place, I'm like, well, I can become more intentional about it. But it needs to be with intention of how it is that I want to experience my life. Did I explain that correctly? Did that make sense?
It made sense to me. Yeah, I love
so
that.
what was the second part of your question? There's something else. I feel like I missed it.
Well, you answered it all perfectly. It's like, okay, cool. What is happiness in your eyes? And then I said, where are you on that happiness scale? And you're like, I'm all over. Well, you said you weren't where you were. Sorry, you said you weren't where you wanted to be. So where is where you want to be?
Yeah, so that's the question that I was referring to earlier before. It's like, where is it that I'm trying to run to? I sit in that moment of discomfort, and I'm I'm not feeling that happy right now. And I don't necessarily ask myself, why, but I'll ask myself, what is it that I'm focusing on? So much of it is perspective. And I go, and as soon as I realize that I'm not where I want to be, I'm not feeling as happy as I want to be, or any of those other versions of whatever happiness means to me in that moment, I immediately realize that I'm only focusing on the things that aren't going right, things that I don't want to have, the experiences that I'm connecting with that aren't serving my happiness. And I immediately I'm just looking at all the kind of crappy things. And so that's when I'm like, oh, okay, I know what it is that I have to do. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to start journaling my acknowledgements on how awesome I'm showing up in this area, what I'm grateful for, bringing like really intentional appreciation to all these things that I do have. I go and create time, and I know for myself, the thing that I'm escaping from is disconnection. So, like a core driver for me, everything that I do, it's taken years to discover this, but everything that I do is driven by a real desire to connect. And so I feel that I'm not happy when I'm disconnected. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to do to connect right now? Reach out to someone I love hanging out with. Reach out, James Stroud. I know that you're going to come back with some epic message like, awesome, that's so good. Reach out to my girlfriend, can we just sit? Can we just, like, if she's super affectionate like I am, I'm like, I just really need a hug right now. Can we just sit and like, we never say that I'm too busy for it. We just drop what you do. And she'll be like, give me a kiss. Like, come in packets of 3. I'm like, would you like another packet? Can I have another packet of kiss? She's like, there we go. It's those moments.
Yeah.
So, like, my happiness is all over the place. But when I realize that I'm not happy, I just take intentionality to know what it is. And this is actually something I was talking about. We did a whole session on internal state creation. There's a strategy around how we can determine how it is that we want to feel, what our internal state is. And so everyone's got a state that they go to easily, effortlessly, exactly how to create their internal state. And so for me, it used to be a lot of frustration and judgment. That was my resting internal state. I was always kind of angry, frustrated, upset, basically. And so it took me a long time to figure out it didn't have to be that. That was my highway. I love the science around neuroplasticity, that the brain can be shaped and molded to whichever way it is that we want. So neuroplasticity is basically, we've got the highways to whatever it is that we want to create, whatever we want to think, whatever our language patterns are, our internal states of being. Now, if we want to shape it somewhere else, let's create a new path to what it is that we want. We've all experienced, and we all have within us what it is that we want to experience. Those pathways might be a bloody walking track through the forest that you need to take a machete down to find. Do that. And then as you walk it more often and you cut that path wider, turn that into the highway, 6-lane highway that you drive in your Tesla down at 200 k's an hour. And eventually those other pathways are going to become the overrun path that's really challenging to go down. Sure, I still experience frustration and anger and stress because they're healthy, but now at least they're functional. I know how to deal with it. Or when they come up, I like, that old guy, I'm not gonna give him the time right now. I'll do that another time when it's like closing the gap on the external stimulus and then the response within me to determine, well, how is it that I'd rather feel? And I'm here, Barcelona, living a really great life. I'm just gonna go down the beach and sit and listen to some live music. And like I did that just 2 days ago. I'm like, oh, shit, this is the best day I've had here yet. I was by myself. I just went for a swim with the guys down there on the guitar. I'm like, these guys are living the dream. This is so good. And then I lived my dream life for that couple hours.
And that's, like we were talking about before, those small moments that you really sit there and appreciate, and you're like, oh, cool, live music, bit of a vibe, some street food going on, the sun shining, like this and that. And you go, fuck, this is really fucking cool. This is epic. And then I guess you sit there and you reflect and you go, oh, wow, maybe this is happiness, I'm really happy now. But then I think, the big question is like, is happiness a choice?
Yeah.
I hear this a lot. I think it is. I think it is a choice. And I guess some people are different. But I noticed, I guess for me, what is happiness? Well, I mean, like life's going pretty well for me right now. So, you know, I'm grateful for that. And, a lot of them are big, that they are impacting factors on your happiness, I believe. Even though, happiness is a choice that we make, I still think that, a lot of the factors, definitely impact that. If you're in a really bad spot in your life, you're struggling with some stuff, it is really hard to be, quote unquote happy or flip that switch, because it's funny how humans work. We could be super happy. Something tragic happens, we throw all that happiness away and we just grasp onto negative energy and these negative emotions. We're like, and we just want to hug the shit out of it and sit with it for a bit. And it's just really interesting. I was like, you can be like, okay, that's pretty sad, but I'm feeling really good right now. I decide to stay happy, and I could deal with that another time and process that at a later date. But it's just funny how that works. But I guess circling back to the question, what is happiness for me? Well, I guess happiness for me is that feel good energy, where no external factors. How do I describe this? Let's say you're having one of those days, nothing's going right. You are met with objection after objection, and all you can do is laugh. Right? We have those days, and all I do is laugh. I go, fuck, this is shit, and then another bad thing happens, and another one. You're like, fucking hell, this get any worse? And it does, and you're like, holy. For me, I always laugh, and I guess that's what happiness is, right? Is laughing in the face of all that shit. And go, well, look, it doesn't really affect you. It tests your patience, and it tests all of these other emotions, and tests your character, and a lot of things. And the testing days, character building days, I call them. But I guess that is happiness, because you're choosing to be happy in the face of these other emotions that are coming at you, in the form of like negative energy, or, a lot of the time, and then choosing to be happy there. Where am I on the happiness scale? I recently had a call with a psychic, and I kind of do this every like quarter, and every now and then. Now, I know it's not the be all end all. It's just real. I just find it really fascinating. And, I'm a very spiritual person, as you know. And then checking with him, and I keep all the notes of, I started seeing him a couple of years ago, and I hadn't seen him since January. And then checking him and he said, get the fuck out of Melbourne. There's nothing here for you. You should go to Bali. You've got to go there. You've got to meet these people, and you'll come across this healer. You got to go do this healing and do all these other things. And I sort of, I had that on the cards anyways. I was like, I'm going to go and let's see what happens this time around. And the progress I made in 3 months is insane. Like, I'm really proud of myself, and also blown away. And I was like, wow, this is great. And then, okay, he said, okay, cool. Like, you're now aligned, you're on your journey and this and that. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. I've just quit my job and gone full time on our agency, our viral marketing and AI automation agency. And we're at that point where we got a lot of customers coming to us, and everyone wants services and wants to deal with us. And we're kind of in a cool spot where we can pick and choose who those customers are. And I really only want to deal with like large to medium to like large scale businesses. And we're kind of like going through that, and look, we could have got a lot more work and all that, but it's picking and choosing. Well, I guess what I'm getting at here is, okay, income is not where it should be, or we probably need it to be, and that's okay. But I'm in Bali, a beautiful Bali. I've got meeting amazing people. Everyone who I'm aligned with is doing great things. I've got this loving partner who's just awesome and lets me do what I need to do to get where I need to get to, and doesn't get in the way of that. But she's also doing her own thing, and then kind of like, our lives are now, intertwined and sort of going in the same direction, which is super cool. So that's going really, really well. And all these positive factors, and the business is going well, and in the other areas, and I'm just like, okay, cool. This is really cool and really interesting. So I guess I'm really happy right now, because my life's going in the direction where I've tried to get it going for many years, and I've tried all these different things, and I've tried all these different things, a lot of failures, and I'm like, that sucks, but you keep moving forward. And I kind of feel like I'm just on this big slingshot over the years. As I've gone through my journey, I've always had this vision that I'm on this slingshot, and I was like, okay, cool. I didn't get super successful in my 20s. That's totally okay. But I was like, I kind of felt like, okay, cool. The more I went back, the further I was going to launch forward in this slingshot. So I kind of feel like I'm in that slingshot and I'm slinging forward at the moment. And I guess I'm really happy about that. And because it's somewhere that I've always wanted to be. And I guess, this goes back to the journey and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think to answer that question is like, okay, cool. I'm really, really happy. There's some things I'm not happy about, but I mean, I guess we're always unhappy about certain things, but overall, extremely happy. Waking up every day, one thing that always gets me in the morning, the sunrise, cruising on the scooters, and it's usually just local people out at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and everyone's just smiling. They're just like, and it's only that glimpse, maybe like 1 second, you see them fly past, and you just share that smile with them. I'm like, well, maybe this is happiness, So yeah, I love that, and I love to go deep on this stuff. I think it's really, really important. And when you start challenging, what is happiness? What do you think happiness is? And a lot of people don't have the answer. And they go, shit, maybe you need to figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think there's two parts to it. But I love it. Firstly, congratulations on all the work that you've done. I think that's incredible. And having been part of your
Thank
journey
you.
for a couple of years now, and hearing your story previously and how far it is that you've personally come and the way that you show up, I think it's so inspiring. That's one of the major things that attracted me to your journey, because it's real. Like, this is the journey of humanity. This is the journey of life. None of us are exempt from those ups and downs and the chaos, especially when you're on this pursuit of excellence, to have it all. Like, I don't think there's any real true like high achiever, high performer that hasn't been through that, the chaos that comes with, and the volatility and the intensity of life. Because if we don't go through that, well, what's the alternative? It's kind of just sitting back and fucking around. Not too much.
Yeah, just while we're on this, it's funny because society teaches us, okay, cool, what is happiness? Well, and I guess this ties into success, right? To be happy, you need to be successful. And to be successful, well, you've got to save up, eat shit for years, save money, then use that money as a deposit to buy a house. And then once you buy that house, then you're going to either one, renovate it, or two, buy a bunch of materialistic shit, i.e. furniture, big screen TVs, cars, etc. And then once you do that, then you're going to paint all the walls and do whatever and do all these things, then do all these Instagram videos, and then share that on your social media to then get these things called likes, which in turn result in dopamine hits. And that's where you're getting your happiness from. And then I think this is really funny. And I said this to Gigi recently, and I was like, isn't it ironic that these people that claim that they're successful and claim that they're happy doing what society tells them are yet on this $5,000 couch, looking at their phone, comparing their lives to people who are living a somewhat detached lifestyle, a digital nomad lifestyle, let's say, for example, where these people are traveling the world, doing what they want. They've got life on their terms. They own their time. And then they're comparing, and then they go, oh, am I truly happy? And I was like, fuck, that's the life of an NPC, right? And then you go, And then I reflect back and I go, fuck, you know what? I used to be an NPC. And, there's no denying that. I watched this video recently. There's a guy on TikTok. You should check him out, Hub's Life. And he's a 9 to 5 guy. He's very proud of it, but he documents his journey and he goes, cool, get up early, go to the gym, come back, do my hair, brush my teeth, skincare routine, shower, all the stuff that you do as a human being. Listen to rap music on the way to work, get to work, grind it out, cool, do an hour overtime, whatever, back to the gym, go for a walk with the dog, eat food, watch Netflix, repeat. And I was like, fuck. Isn't that like it hits deep? And you go, shit, am I really living my life? What am I doing this for? A promotion? Well, like, cool, like dogs are great, don't get me wrong, but okay, like, I was doing this in Melbourne. I was like, all right, cool, get up, walk the tan, go to the gym, do that, go through that process. And I was like, fuck, I really wish I was still in Bali with Dan and having these fucking taco sandwiches, like, so
Shouldn't have let
I shouldn't have, but I guess I had to, because that was part of my journey,
of
right?
course.
And then,
Yeah.
but it was just really interesting. And now I'm like, okay, cool, I definitely don't want that.
You see it all the time, right? Like, what I'm starting to realize and appreciate, like, I'm like, why is this? I used to put it down to social conditioning and, or the matrix, or the control, or whatever it is. We've got all of these things. I'm boiling it down to something much more simple than this. And people crave certainty. So as soon as there's a system in place to follow, so we don't have to make decisions, it's just do this thing, get this outcome. Cool, now got certainty. Certainty is comfort. Great, we'll just do that. And everything listed there is just comfort-seeking certainty. Yeah, it was one of my mentors, Remy Pearson. She's the founder of the Coaching Institute in Melbourne, where I've studied, and I love being part of it. She says one of the number one criteria, keys to success, or whichever way you want to define success, is the ability to navigate, to be able to make decisions in the face of challenge. And so we got these people living this 9 to 5 job, getting a paycheck, and getting the bills that come in, and everything becomes routine and mundane. The more mundane your life is, the more certainty and therefore comfort you have. But it's the great lie, because we think that if we're going to be safe, certain, comfortable, we're going to be happy. But it's the great lie, because what happens to those people? It's a spiral all the way down to the bottom. Because one of the other needs that we have is certainty. We're going to go and face the whole conversation we had before. So it's our choice again on how much discomfort we want to step into. But the life that we're talking about, it all fucking discomfort.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's, seeking discomfort is a comfort in itself, because you just get so much more out of it. I remember, and you and I shared this a while back. I remember that moment. I've just gone through this moment again, relived it. But remember that moment when you had your car and, all your materialistic things, and then you sold everything and you packed your life into a suitcase. And I think it's been about 3 years now, Dan, that you've been, a digital nomad. And that feeling of that light feeling, right? You're just like, oh, this feels good. I've just got everything I need in a suitcase. I real like that, and that's it. And you're just like super happy, super light. You don't need anything. I'd done that feeling when, I first moved to Bali with you the first time, and then went back, and then I got the apartment again, got a few bits and pieces as you do. And now I'm really excited. I'm like, cool, I want to go back and sell everything. And, I was giving shit away. I was like, I don't care. And people were like, what? You want money for it? I was like, no, it means nothing to me. And then, I got back there and I was really excited. I went through the wardrobe, pretty much threw everything out, bought all new black shirts. My wardrobe is very basic, and then some gym shorts. I've got one pair of jeans, I think one pair of dress shorts, and then a couple of pairs of shoes, and then just, laptop and iPad and vlogging equipment and stuff like that. And I'm like, cool, this is it. It's all I need. I'm happy. And just that feeling, I was like, oh, this is so good. And I've condensed my life now down into one small carry-on. I used to have the big suitcase, and now I'm down to one small carry-on, and a backpack. I was like, fuck, that's all I need. It's agile. I can go anywhere in the world. And just that feeling of like, it's so good. You just feel so light. And I've done the exercise with Gigi, and she's not quite there, but I'm super proud of her of the progress that she's making. It was funny because she had a shitload of socks. I was like, you only need 7 pairs of socks. You could really get it down to 3 or 5, if you really wanted to. We threw a whole bunch out, and then she goes, cool, I'm down with this. And I looked at the pile, I was like, mate, there's like 30 pairs of socks there. She goes, no, I need them. I've got these ones for this day. I've got these for working. And I'm just like, it was a funny little thing, but
you just take it with her. Let her take it all until you get sick of carrying it, and then it just starts disappearing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the exercise. But it was pretty funny. But it's just different people and where they are in their lives, and I guess there's nothing wrong with it. You can have as many socks as you want if you want to carry them around. But for me, I'm just like, the lighter the better. The less baggage you've got is the better. And I actually, I just caught up with a good friend of mine who lives here in Bali, and I think he's been here just over 6 months now, maybe a bit longer. Anyways, we shared where he's at in his journey. He's got essentially like a marketing agency, and you're predominantly in the AI space now. And I think this is something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I guess it ties into what we're discussing. Typical entrepreneur journey, right? And I guess it depends where you are with your maturity in life, but most people go and start their business, and you see this time and time again, and they get a little bit of a success, and you're like, oh shit, and then they hit it big, 6-7 figures, maybe more. Then they get, all the designer gear, and then they get the cars, and they get the flash apartments and villas and all that sort of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how they would want to choose to live there, spend their money and live, who are we to judge? But it's really interesting because Naval Ravikant talks about this, and, he goes, typical entrepreneur journey, and this is what happens. And then they get all that stuff, and they get to that point, and they go, now I'm here, maybe this isn't what I wanted. And then most of the time, a lot of them just throw a lot of it away and then go to living a very, I guess, what would be the word there? Restricted, unrestricted lifestyle, where they sort of give it all away, and then they just go on this big grounding sort of phase where they start questioning, what is life, what am I after, what's my purpose, and going through that. And my friend that I spoke to, he's kind of not interested in that. I think neither am I. I think that the big thing that I really want to get to, and once I do make all those millions, is philanthropy. I can't wait for that. That is just going to, having those resources to then, own 100% of my time, but then help make a real big change in the world and impact people's lives, especially people who just don't have anything, and educating kids and building schools around the world, and just, going to third world countries, helping all these beautiful people, and just seeing that smile. I mean, that is just going to make it all worthwhile for me. I'm just like, fuck, it's like Tony Robbins, and, he's, what he does with philanthropy, and then you see a lot of these other incredible people that go and do that, and just the impact it has. I mean, I get it on a smaller scale, tipping people, or just doing random acts of kindness that way. I mean, it's really easy to do in Bali. You can splurge out, if it's $5 or $10, that can really make an impact to someone's life. Yeah. And you go, cool, it's only $5 or $10, it's only money, you'll always make more. But yeah, I think that's kind of for me, where I'm at in that journey, I think I'm going to skip all the cars and all that lifestyle. And designer brands never. I mean, it's just marketing upsell. That's all that is smart marketing, and I'm not a sucker for that. So, I think for me, it's just like, have less, give more, is essentially
I
what I'm
love
trying
that.
to say.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I saw you post on, I think it was Facebook, maybe it was on Instagram the other day, and it was a post of you packing down your suitcase, and you had 4 really key points. One of them was that, and I was just like, awesome, I love that. As you say, that it is a maturity, it's a journey. There's a couple of different. Actually, I wanted to run this by you as well. I was thinking about thing. I'm going to be putting together a mastermind for people like ourselves to have conversations like this and bring these frameworks, codes of thinking and approach to move through those levels that you're sharing there. We all have to move through them. We can't skip the levels. And so you say, okay, well, we can skip the fast cars and everything. I don't think you've skipped the level though, because you've got the apartment and you've got the fancy stuff, you've got the money, you've dabbled with it, you realized, well, maybe, it's not skipping it, you've seen the value in it, and now you've moved through that to the next level. And it's important to have, like the financial success, the external successes driven by getting the sex and the money and the time and all these things in the external world, but they are extrinsic drivers because it's a human instinct. We need that driver to survive. But once you've got them, they're not motivators anymore, because there's only so much money, there's only so much sex, that's going to keep you alive. So then what are we motivated by? It has to be these intrinsic motivators. And that's where we can start going through the ladder of, well, you're talking at the level of like level 6, meaning, purpose, philanthropy, and then above that is like evolution. But how do we skip between all these levels? What's the pathway for that? And when we're talking about the world of the top achievers, they don't get there by accident. They're driven, they're relentless, the pursuit of excellence. It comes with its own unique set of challenges, and those unique set of challenges happen through the levels in which we need to move through. So, like level 3, and I'll give it like the framework this comes from, the spiral dynamics. Level 3 is all about, well, level 2 is about, this so much of, say, Australia is not wanting to break free from society, from the connection, from the relationships, not wanting to step out of the comfort zone. I've got my friends, I've got my colleagues, I've got my job, I've got my certainty, I feel safe. Entrepreneurship starts at level 3, going, I want to break free of that. I want my own identity and do some awesome shit. I want to go and figure it out. And so you can see this in, like, people go and paint me their pink. It's like almost like teenage culture when we're finding our voice, if we translate business. And so what that looks like is going, what's in it for me? Let's make it all about myself. I want the significance of, like the watch and the car, and I'm going to go and buy all the drinks at the bar to impress everyone. And we need to go through that because we need our own identity. We need our voice. It's like this rebellious culture. At some point, it's going, okay, I'm getting some really great results, but it's not sustainable because we hit the highs and lows and the ups and downs. It just gets exhausting at some point. Some people never break free of this. And some people get to a point where they're like, I just kind of want some sustainability. So then you move through the next level, and it's about systems and processes. How can we create consistency in the results that we want? And then, so that's the next level. It's going, okay, let's move through making it all about me. How can we sustain that, systemize it? And then we go through the next level, get results. Now, money is just a byproduct of everything that we do. It's easy. It's kind of, money is boring because it's just on autopilot. That's what you're talking about with the automation. Money's just coming in. Now we're at level 5. Now we can start focusing on other stuff, creating real meaning, purpose, giving money away. How is it that we can really make an impact in the world? Because we don't need to focus on me anymore. Don't need to focus on how to get the money. That's all just automated, sustained. Now we've got heaps of focus just to go and do what it is that's really important to us, really living our values. And so that's the levels that we go through. And once we understand these levels, where we're at in the different areas of our life, we can be at different levels, different areas of our life. One thing that I've been really focusing on is moving from that level 3, that level 4, the level 5 in relationship. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that is for entrepreneurs and sabotaging the future is not focusing on relationships with themselves and others. That made the biggest difference to my success in life and everything that it is that I've created. My experience in life is that, and you'll see it time and time again. You've got these peaks and these valleys and this intensity and this chaos. But have a look at anyone that's really achieving greatness in the world, that's achieving meaning, purpose, philanthropy, and doing really well, is they've got the other areas of their life figured out. Depends on what you classify as success, how you determine success. But for me, and I believe for the top 1% in the world, that are the true top 1%, is that's holistic. They've got their health and their vitality, they've got the relationships, they've got their mindset, they've got their emotions, and they've got the philanthropy and the meaning, the purpose to do. But we can't skip any of it to reach it. So it's that pathway that we're on. So what I'm looking at creating I have actually put it together. I want to create a mastermind and bring others along into this conversation. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Maybe where and how we collaborate.
Yeah, oh, dude, yeah, no, definitely. I think that's great. That's amazing. I think your perspective there, where it's like, okay, maybe like you mentioned the apartment. I'm like, yeah, I do have a really nice apartment. Maybe I have lived that. I think maybe just not to the extreme with the fancy cars and all that sort of stuff. I bought a Tesla, and then I pre-ordered one essentially, and then I was like, okay, well, why am I buying this? And and then I thought to myself, okay, cool. Am I buying it for me or am I buying it for people on social media? And to be completely honest, I think, okay, yeah, it was cool to have a car like that and be in there. But then I was like, maybe it was definitely an ego thing. Maybe I was buying it for other people and not so much myself. And I was like, fuck, isn't that funny? How that works. It was something that I was completely against, so I just canceled it. I was like, fuck that. Like, yeah, not interested. And I haven't had a car for, fuck, it would be, I don't know, maybe a good 18 months now. I got my scooter here in Bali, but that's it. But very, very happy and content with that. But yeah, I'm just like, I think the way I looked at it, I've done the math on this actually with just quickly on the car thing. It's cheaper for me to Uber around or walk. So, exercise is always great, steps and fresh air. But I always found it really interesting because I was like, okay, cool. Someone else can drive the car and I can be on my phone. I can do work on my phone. I can jump on a call. I can do a range of things. I was like, cool, this is, increasing output. But also, if you got an Uber every day, then it's still cheaper than owning a car because you have to pay your registration and your insurances and everything else and car repayments and all the rest of it. I was like, oh shit, it's actually cheaper to do it that way. And I was like, why do I need a car? If I want to go on a road trip, I can hire a car. And we done that. We hired a Tesla and we went on a road trip. And that was fun. And then I gave it back. I was like, oh, cool, what? A couple $100, it's no biggie. Yeah, I got to enjoy a nice car. But yeah, circling back to what you were saying, it's like, maybe I did experience that. And I definitely think there are levels. I know a bunch of younger sort of dudes who are crushing it here in different ventures. I'm watching where they are, and they got the shiny object syndrome and all that. And I'm like, hey, just bit of advice. If you don't go and splurge all this money on these things and invest it wisely, you could have essentially, an unlimited to an extent. Well, I guess that's not unlimited, but you could have an abundance of those shiny objects if you choose to if you reinvest the money that you've got now. One thing that I've definitely learned in the past is, okay, cool, the world's abundant, money's a tool. You'll always make more money. So that's cool. And when you have large amounts of that money, you need to deploy that to go and create more money, so you can have more tools to do the things that you want.
Well, that's based on. See, I love it, and it's such a good perspective to have. And I say good because I believe that also, but it's a reflection of others. Like your value is to reinvest and create wealth. That's like a really great wealth creation. But like I see money as an amplifier, and so when people get large amounts of wealth, that will amplify what it is that they value. Now, back when I was in Melbourne, I was one of the first things I did outside of my corporate job was self-sold. I became a sales consultant. Suddenly I went from just having, it was a pretty good office corporate job straight into earning 10 grand a week in my pocket. And like, that was more money that I'd ever seen before, like suddenly. And what it did is it showed me that I had no idea of money and how to handle money. And not in the sense where like everyone else, the other guys that I was working with, they were going to the strip club and getting heaps of alcohol and parties and that kind of thing, where I had it sitting in the bank going, fuck, I don't know how to spend it. And because my value around money was going, needs to be invested wisely, got to get a return on the investment, need to make sure that it's paying itself off, can't piss it up against the wall. I realized I just had my mum's voice talking to me in the back of my mind. And so my problem was I didn't know how to spend it. What I did is I ended up building business, and I put it all into my business. And then at the end of it, nearly ended up going, setting myself bankrupt twice. And now I look back on it and go, fuck, I didn't even enjoy my money. Damn it. Like I could have gone and enjoyed that so much more. And so that's when I start giving advice like you're sharing before, is appreciating that it comes from personal values. And people go and spend the money on what it is that they value. If they value the fancy things and the significance, especially if you said they're young guys, I think we've all been, speaking from guys, we've all been young guys to see, experience that significance of going, hey, well, you're pretty cool. You've got the car. I brought a convertible Audi, and I had a loud stereo and cruise around, play my music loud. Everyone looked at me, and there was a sense of significance in it. When I discovered that I could make a much more healthier version of significance, create that, when people come and go, wow, Dan, you've really changed my life. Thank you so much for that conversation. It's one of those debts. I don't need the car.
Yeah. Dude, 100%. I think, and that's, I think you and I are definitely on that same level there, where, if you inspire others, then I think that's a life worth living, right? People, I've gotten some beautiful messages in my life from people, and then, me doing certain actions in my life and documenting the journey and the process of how I got there and how I, achieved XYZ, and then them drawing inspiration from that to then go and make change in their life for the better is like, wow, that's pretty epic. So these people then go and make a positive change in their life. It doesn't just benefit them, but it benefits the people around them, their family, their friends, everything like that. I think, like what you're doing, when you started to lean more into your passion with, the parallax transformations and doing the coaching. And okay, look, you need a money exchange for those services, but what you're getting out of it is just so much more, because you're changing people's lives. And one thing that I draw inspiration from you is you spend a huge amount of money on yourself in terms of, the coaching programs and, these masterminds and everything else that you do is, and I'm like, shit, when you're like, yo, I spent X, and I'm like, wow, like, dude, that's crazy. And I think, you're probably past that barrier. For me, I'm like, okay, look, I've got a couple of mentors, and you spend a bit of money, a few $1,000s, and you're like, okay, cool. But you get so much more out of it. And then once you start applying those principles that you learn, if you actually sit there and learn and block out all the distractions and focus and learn what this mentor is or coaches are teaching you, and then go and apply that into your life, then that investment pays off so much more. You know, I've done this recently and got some crazy results, you know, with the social media thing, sitting down and spending time with the best of the best, you know, the head of algorithms at TikTok, the head of Instagram, and Mr. Beast, or one of Mr. Beast's coach, right, to help with the YouTube strategy. So learned from all these different platforms from the best of the best. And I was like, cool. And then done extremely well. I was like, fuck, that's a great investment, because now I've got the skill to grab attention at scale. And we live in an attention economy. So that is extremely valuable skill, you know. And then I think with you, you know, you've got extremely valuable skills, obviously in coaching and, you know, NLP, and I mean, your CV's, you know, I'm definitely underestimating it, but it's very long. But I think it's super inspiring, you know, to go, all right, cool. Yeah. You're like, all right, cool. You're not scared to throw that resource and invest in yourself. With me, I think it's really only, I've always invested in myself, but I've never gone, okay, cool, you know, here's 50K, I'm going to go spend it on a coach, and then, you know, try and get something out of it. And I think that's very, very inspiring to see, you know, you do that. And I've got a bunch of other friends who spend some crazy money on coaches. But I watch their journey once they do this investment, and they go, cool, well, they're committed to themselves. You know, they're invested in themselves. They want to be the best version of themselves. And I'm like, so there isn't a price tag on that. You know, money's just a tool. Okay, cool. Like you'll spend your last 20, 30 grand and, you know, might be down the last couple $100, but you make it work. You know, you're like, all right, cool. But, you know, I've learned these skills and I'll create more money and it'll be fine. You know, I'll get back up there, or if not more next time. So I think that's really inspiring. But yeah, I think living an impactful life, right, inspiring others, I think is, you know, a life well lived. I think, you know, one of the things that we could definitely agree on is serving others is the number one thing a human being can do. And I think that's a life well lived. If you can serve someone, how do you serve someone today? Do you make them a coffee? Do you send them a nice message? Do you give them a hug, a kiss? Whatever form that's in, how you serve that person, I think that's really important. And I think, you know, again, circling back to these small things, you know, I go to this coffee shop I've been to, you know, none of them fucking open at my hour, apart from Revs, and, you know, Revs is always really expensive. And I'm like, I just, you know, that's a powerhouse. They got enough money. I mean, where's the other up and coming little cafes? And I found this one, and it says 7 o'clock on the website, but they're kind of there just, you know, just after 6. And I go there, and I've just been like, the coffee's cheap, it's $2.50. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I you know, I've been tipping them. And I'm like, I sit there and I'm reading a book in the morning, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the gym to open, and I'm like, isn't this nice? These two people are serving me a coffee, and I'm just like, you know, I'm so grateful for it. And then I'm like, okay, cool, you know, tipping them back, but it's just going through that motion of like an act of service, essentially, right? And I think it's so powerful, and I think a lot of people just underestimate everything. But all these little things, you know, give me joy in doing so. Yeah.
It's so good. I love what it is that you're sharing. Like it wraps up this whole conversation really nicely. There was 2 things that stood out. Just going back to the point that you made on these people that have invested in coaching, and how it's saying yes to themselves. It's one of the biggest things that I think that holds, if we're talking about entrepreneurs, especially, and it ties into another point that you made, it is one of the biggest things that holds people back, especially entrepreneurs and really high achievers, in accepting, you know, you'll go and invest, say, business development or professional development. And that's easy because you're like, okay, I got to up level my skills so that I create more impact, for example, or make more money, or whatever the driving is. And you're going, well, do that relatively easy. You're working with some big names, for example. But then to go and do it on a personal level, it's like, we'll just, I see this for so many people, and I go, oh, no, it's not going to do it. And because it really is that, it's the ability to say yes to ourselves, say yes to yourself. And when it comes to entrepreneurs, we're so motivated by the second point of going, we need to make it about others. We need to serve. We need to do all this. It's the underlying thing here, and I won't say but, it's an and. We need to make it about others. And we need to have taken care of ourselves first, because we can't create an impact for others until we're saying yes to ourselves. And what that might look like is doing the personal development, learning the boundaries. You see in the corporate world, in the entrepreneur world, there's burnout of just over saying yes to too much. This relentless pursuit of doing more and more and more at the expense of ourselves, whether it's a health and well-being, like you with sharing your own personal journey around drugs or alcohol or dysfunctional relationships, these things. It's just, it clearly shows, as a coach, I can just see you're just not valuing yourself and what's important to you. And these people, they know that they've got a challenge and they know they need to say yes to themselves. But that's the hard thing. And so, when it comes to, I'm sitting down with, say, an initial coaching call with someone, and I'm like, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to champion you. I'd love to take you to the levels and beyond where it is to reach your peak potential. The first thing I need from you is for you to say yes to me, because I can't help you until you're ready to do that. And then once you can do that, you don't need to go spend 50 grand. You're going to spend whatever the little pieces, and maybe a little bit more, just a fraction more than what you're comfortable with, to demonstrate that it's important and stuff like that. And then, as you say, see the results, and then the comfort zone grows a bit more. Could be 2 grand to begin with, then it's 5 grand, then 7 grand, and you work your way up. 200 grand, whatever level you're going to. Go and work with Tony Robbins. He's $1 million a year for probably 3
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
So there's levels for everyone. And so also tying that back into what you said, really making others a service. You can't truly serve anyone until you serve yourself. Otherwise it's self-abandonment, just giving up what's important to you and trying to make everyone else happy at the expense of yourself. So no one's happy. Can't do it. There's actually a really cool book, by the way. I'll drop that in here. Is Fearless Living by Rhonda Britton. It's one of my favorite books right now. So easy to read. It's amazing. Talking about the wheel of fear versus the wheel of freedom. I might model it actually and create some programming on that. It's such awesome content.
Yeah, right. Very cool. Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely look into that. Fearless Living.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, send those details through. Yeah, I think it's like, I'm a big firm believer now. I'm like, okay, the best investment you can make is yourself. And it's not just, going to the gym and doing ice baths and so on. Those have a profound effect, especially compounding long term. But I think it's just more so, okay, cool. For me, where I was 6 months ago is completely different to where I am now. What's changed? Well, I think setting boundaries and really investing in myself. I mean, like focusing on James Rowdy, shutting out distractions, and then going, okay, cool. What's your purpose? What's the goal look like for you? How are you going to get there, Rowdy? Okay, cool. And then, committing resources to, certain things. I've got a couple of coaches at the moment that I'm sort of doing. One's helping out with systems and processes. He's amazing, and I've been working with him for a few months now. An outstanding guy. And the other one is a speech coach, right? So helping with vocabulary and how you communicate with others. And one thing that is important, I think, that everyone should learn is that if you've got the resources, or sorry, let me rephrase that. One of the best things you could do is go and learn how to communicate. So go and see a speech therapist, a communication coach, whatever you want to call them. If you can master that, you'll 10x your face value, because going into a room You don't necessarily have to be the loudest person in the room, but you have to be the most confident person in the room, right? How you walk, how you communicate with others, how you communicate with yourself is extremely important. And the other thing is like, okay, cool. Going back to perspective things, everyone's got perspectives and everyone's got opinions. And you know what? None of those opinions matter except yourself. And you can dive a bit deeper into that and you go, okay, cool. But yet we seek other people's opinions that we, you know, like love or trust or have a relationship, and we value these other people's opinions, but they're not necessarily right all the time, right? Because at the end of the day, we've got all the answers to our own problems. Essentially, if you dig deep on it, you've actually got the answers, but yet we seek validation from others. But when you remove all of that and you go, okay, cool, never second guess yourself. One thing that I've definitely learned is like, yep, cool, Rowdy, did you believe it? Yep, cool, validate it. Yep, you still happy with that? Yep, done, cool. And then when people go, okay, but no, that's wrong, and I'm like, oh, that's what you think. I think it's right. And you know, maybe I am wrong on whatever it is, like, you know, factually. But if as long as I believe it's true, then it's true. And I think that's one thing is like, cool. I believe I'm going to be worth 9 figures one day. It's just a matter of time. And you know, it's really interesting when I say this to people, and then I monitor how they react to that. And the people who go, or you know, just laugh or just say it's a massive goal or something like that, I'm like, fucking oath, it's ambitious as shit, because I know that what I'm doing and how to get there, and I can definitely fucking achieve it. You know, I'm on that fucking slingshot and I'm fucking flying through. So it's just a matter of time of when that happens. And you know, and when I get there, I'm probably going to give a lot of it away. So it's going to be fucking awesome. But yeah, I think it's it's really, I guess, you know, fascinating. You know, how we sort of like how that's, yeah, I guess sort of how that plays out. But had a bit of a mind blank moment there. Yeah, so it's good.
It's so good, man. I love it. I love these conversations that we have. Everything that is that you share is on such a what's the word? It's like a like I was going to make up a word, something about synergetic. Is that a word? Synergetic path, or like such a similar path, or a path of such synergies in terms of where it is that what it is that we're going for, how it is that we're getting there, and it brings so much value to these conversations. So I love it. I don't know why we don't catch up.
I know, man. Likewise. No, definitely. Yeah, it's always good. Definitely fucking catching up. I really value, you know, this relationship and the call. It's always good, and I'm glad that, you know, we're definitely on the same frequency of vibration there with, you know, everything. It's just refreshing to have conversations like this with you, and I'm just like, maybe that's what I needed. You know, this coming up for that breath of fresh air, and I'm like, this, you know, it's good. This is probably the most excited I was for out of all my calls this week. And one thing that I've definitely learned is like eliminating meetings altogether, right? Unless you really have to. And even with clients, you know, I go, cool, we can go back and forth, email, you know, Telegram, WhatsApp, whatever you want to do. A lot of the problems can be solved doing that. They go, we can jump on a quick call. And I'm like, you know, we could, but what are you trying to get out of this? You know, what's the purpose? We need to solve this. Okay, but we can solve that over text, right? Yeah, but you know, people have got this urge to jump on calls, and I'm just like, I could be solving this problem that you got if you just text it to me, and you know, I can help solve that. But it's just, yeah, one thing I've done is remove a lot of calls. So the calls that I do have, I value a lot, especially, you know, this one. So no, it's always a pleasure catching up, brother.
Yeah, man, absolutely. What I'd love to share with you is, if you're open to it, just going back all the way back to the start of our conversation around time mindset, relationship with time. I wrote a book, 3 Toxic Lies That Keep you busy, stressed, and unfulfilled. And it talks about time mindset, relationship with time, and the hustle culture that majority of entrepreneurs have bought into. And it shares a bit of a story about experience in Bali and lots of stuff that you'll resonate with. It's I wrote it that's a bit controversial in terms of the beliefs around time that I believe are really toxic lies and what we can do to rectify it. So it's like 60 pages. You'd finish it under an hour. Run through it. I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, oh brother, yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, thank you. I'd definitely love to read that. I'm actually just finishing this book at the moment, Breakthrough Advertising. And I didn't know the hard copy was worth about $1,000
Wow.
for this book. What's his? Is it Eugene? What's his name? I always fuck up his name. 1 second, I'll tell you what it's called. But essentially, this guy wrote the blueprint for marketing. Eugene Schwartz. He wrote the blueprint for marketing and you know how to essentially like marketing these days. You know, one thing, the success I've had with marketing, I think, you know, and then building out our agency is like all the shit they tell you about marketing, you know, lorem ipsum and all this shit. And I was like, fuck all of that. I'll write my own rules, you know, like as long as like I don't give a fuck, you know, about like what processes and shit you do. Like I'm doing it my way. And I think that's really cool and fun. And I'm getting better results than fucking most of these marketing agencies that are following these marketing playbooks. You know what I mean? And I think that's fucking hilarious.
The game is changing so quickly, isn't it? And so
yeah,
you can take the basis. There's a few things that have worked forever and will always continue to work. The difference between strategy and tactic. The tactics always change. The strategy still is the same. But like I would assume that it is that you're just changing the tactics on what everyone's been doing, and then you stand out with the crowd.
Yeah, well, that's essentially what I done. You know, to have the success that we had, I was like, okay, cool. Well, how do I grab people's attention? I just reverse engineered it, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, well, what do people like? What emotions do we have? What's the psychology behind it? We actually have, like, you'd know this. There's 5 main emotions we have every day. 4 of them are negative. 1 of them's good, and the good one is joy. And how do you get joy every day? Through memes. It's when, you know, you send funny videos to someone else, your friend of yours, whatever, and, you know, we send it back and forth with one another, having a laugh, sharing that moment, getting that dopamine hit, that joy. And or you're just scrolling and you see the funny videos of the memes and you get that joy hit. And I was like, well, how do I get that? Well, you know, when I was at the gaming company, I was like, cool, well, we've got characters, and characters are the best assets you've got in a gaming company, I believe. And then getting them and then giving them personalities and then creating fun little memes out of them that really grabbed people's attention, but gave them those joy hits, those dopamine hits. And we just I had viral, you know, success multiple times. And that's why I say to people, you know, I run a viral marketing agency because I know how to go viral time and time again. And I always say this is the pitch that I always tell, you know, my clients and everyone. I was like, everyone can do marketing. You can do great marketing, but, you know, the 0.01% can do viral marketing, and that's who we are. And everyone's like, oh, wow, you know, and I'm like, yeah, and the results speak for themselves. So, yeah, it's kind of cool that I'm sort of like, you know, doing it on my terms, my way, and not having to worry about all the bullshit. It's pretty liberating.
So good. I love that. I love that. I got to jump off because we're supposed to be checking out, and really 1 o'clock, so we're a little bit behind.